To a conversation certainly worth having, and with the man who has been there, the front lines on the war on terror. Colonel Walter Hurd is a retired Army colonel who led 4,000 elite soldiers in Afghanistan.
He went through Ballard High School, now lives in Simpsonville, works at Fort Knox, transitioning soldiers off of active duty. And he's written this book called Unconventional Warrior, and it fuels the discussion on how to fight the ongoing war against terrorism. Is our current strategy flawed? Hello, Colonel Hurd. Good to see you, my friend.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Really
you so much.
appreciate it.
I'm
Thank you.
Honored to be here. Thank you.
We're honored to have you. I'll tell you, when I looked at that long line of distinguished service, not just with you, but like the entire family.
Generation number 6 right here. So I've come from a long, great family, and I found that really the key to success for youth is supportive parents, and nobody has that better than I do. So I'm very blessed in that sense as well.
All right, you were in charge of 4,000 or more special forces overseas, and you, in your book, note that some of our strategy might be a little off course. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the command I was fortunate enough to have in Afghanistan had about 4,000 men and women from 6 different countries. So a lot of learning on the field. And what I've learned really came to understand then is that I don't think we're fighting the war correctly. We're not fighting it poorly. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we're fighting it incorrectly from a strategic perspective. America likes to fight wars when we have to very directly with unilateral mass and force. And that works well sometimes when we're fighting the Nazis or the Soviets perhaps. But in an unconventional global war against Muslim extremists, which is what we're in right now, I think the answer is to do it very indirectly. Not force on force with Americans, but to use the indigenous capability as the main effort. So what I argue in this book is that an unconventional perspective is the right strategic approach to fighting the global war against Muslim extremists.
We want to show some of the pictures from this book. What kind of response have you gotten? When you come out, and you can be critical, are you getting any response, I guess, from the administration? Is anybody saying, you know, he's got a point there? What kind of reaction?
I haven't gotten any response from the administration. I did get the book cleared from the Pentagon before I was able to publish it, which is fine. So I got the green light there. And I think some in the administration may quietly agree. I don't think they're going to agree very loudly, because I think this administration in particular has made some strategic flaws that we're going to be paying for a long time.
All right, Colonel Hurd, you talked about, is it winning over indigenous forces or getting help from the people in the countries where we're serving?
Yeah, it really boils down to the main effort in this global war has got to be to motivate the locals to do the work for us. This global war against Muslim extremists is too big for us to send Americans to every single corner. So really the strategy that I argue in this book that we need to follow is much like Tom Sawyer. If you remember, Tom Sawyer, as a young pup, was tasked to paint the fence. But young Tom was an unconventional thinker. He didn't paint the fence. He got all the locals in the community, all the kids on the street, to paint the fence. He recruited them, he trained them, he gave them the paintbrushes, and then he supervised them. They painted the fence. They bought into the concept, the fence got painted, and Tom didn't have paint all over himself. That's how we need to fight this global war at the strategic level, by, with, and through the indigenous population.
Now, to some degree, we've done that in some places, correct?
It's been very successful at the tactical level, absolutely. The challenge is to move it up to the strategic level. And it's been done before. Britain, for example, when they ruled the world and the sun never went down on the British Empire, they did that through an unconventional mechanism. They didn't send out hundreds of millions of British soldiers. They sent out thousands of British leaders who worked with the locals and the indigenous to raise a pro-British force. And that's why today, even 100 years after the British Empire, Great Britain still has a huge vote at every table.
And we've seen the world now. I mean, it's a scary place. And I mean, do you feel like when you see this, how long it will take, or can we ever win the war on terror?
I think we can. We absolutely can. The key is to define success. And success is not to turn the world into Jeffersonian democracy. That's not realistic. Success is to keep the terrorist chaos level down to a manageable and an appropriate level. Our weakness, unfortunately, is our patience. We're not a patient society. The enemy's strength is their patience. As I talk about in the book, an old man said one time in Afghanistan, he had a long beard like Moses, and he tapped his wrist and said, "You Americans have all the watches, but we have all the time.
I saw that quote.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you,
you
Colonel.
so much.
We
We're not
appreciate
going to
it.
solve
Thank
it
you.
here, but boy, what a good discussion and to read more in the book. Thank you so
Glad
much.
to be here.
Thanks
Great
for
Really
sharing,
service.
appreciate
Colonel.
it.
Thank you.
And the name of the book again is Unconventional Warrior.
You can find that at Carmichael's. You get it online at Amazon.com, of course, or at Barnes & Noble. You can buy a copy of that, too. And his website is herdhills.com. Again, we appreciate your service.